Hello, Republic of Gamers, and welcome to ROG Sidequest, the gaming podcast where we talk about, well, just about anything. My name is Solid Jake, and this week we've got Jeff, Bodacious Cowboy Campman, joining me. What's up, man?
Yo, not a whole lot.
What's on your gaming
Wait,
radar? What have you been, anything new, fun, or just the usual grind lately?
I finally picked up Valheim
Ooh.
because my friend group was like, we need something to do because like this weekend, the latest sumo tournament started in Japan, and we stayed up real late to watch the first day live.
I think I saw you post on Discord at like 5 or 6 a.m. and I'm just like, well, what is he doing up at this hour?
Yeah, catching it live is a challenge, but we did. But in the lead up to that, we were like, we need something to do, so we finally picked up Valheim and started playing it. And yeah, it's really hooked. Yeah, I can see why it's hooked people.
How far have you gotten into it? I'm curious.
Not very at all.
Okay, yeah, because it's like for me, my first couple sessions, I actually was like, I was playing with my friends, but like it was like my third session where I started to like kind of see what the game was. And at that point, I just like it consumed me like so completely. And we'll talk about Valheim today because our topic is actually small game studios. And Valheim is one of those big successes. We've got some other games like Loop Hero that just dropped. That's also, studio 4 people. And there's some historic ones as well. And we want to talk about how these AAA studios are making amazing experiences that are extremely memorable, but doesn't mean that you have to be, a 500,000 plus budget game.
Yeah. Or millions.
Yeah. I mean, some of these games have crazy budgets, but there's a lot to talk about. For me, it really is Valheim as well. That is like the consumption, and this is officially the game that I've played the most with my wife ever. We have played more of this game together than any game ever. And she likes games, but we tend to kind of do our own thing, right?
Yeah, I feel that.
But yeah, with this game, we're just having a lot of fun having that goal to explore together, build a base together, discover things together. It's a lot of fun. It's really just hits the mark. But
yeah, I don't tend to do super well with these open-ended games that don't really have and I may not have played enough of Valheim to know this, but I may sort of be talking
sure
from a place of ignorance. But these open-ended games like Minecraft, where you don't really have a goal, or you don't really have a mission other than like make cool stuff, find cool things. Like I tend to need more structure.
Without really spoiling anything, when you first load into Valheim, there's a runestone right by the altars, and that runestone is for his name's Eikthyr. He's like basically a boss, and it basically gives you the marker for him, and you can go fight this boss. Once you defeat that boss, you get an item that gives you progression. I guess we're going into the Valheim discussion now. We'll just roll into full Valheim discussion because explaining what this game is, it's a survival game where they took out a lot of the mechanics that are monotonous, like having to worry about hunger and thirst and all these things like all the time. They took the food mechanic and made that tied to your HP and stamina. So you need HP to survive, you need stamina to survive, but it doesn't feel like this burden of my stomach is this empty, or my hydration is this low, right?
I had noticed that. It's not like you don't feel like there's a spreadsheet behind the scenes.
Exactly. So it feels really nice. Organic. And as you get better food and you learn how to cook, you get better food buffs, and you can say, oh, well, I want to make this food because it's better for stamina, which might be more useful for crafting or logging or mining or whatever. But anyways, you basically get this marker and this objective to fight this boss, and you got to figure out how to fight this boss, how to summon it. And then once you defeat it, you get an item that allows you to progress. So it's actually like the game does have like progression, but you have to discover it, right? So there are several bosses in the game, and each boss unlocks like a new bit of content, and you have to kind of figure out how to summon each boss. And so it's very loosely structured, but I do feel that it's nice.
Yeah, because I've seen what you're doing in your server, and like it does let you just build insane things.
If
Uh,
you are insane and are willing to spend the amount of time that I do. I spent 6
yeah,
hours last night just testing a structure style, which is
yeah,
a little bit on the insane. Most people would do that in creative mode, but I'm like, no, I will get all the
hmm
resources organically and do it the
right.
natural way. But
And it doesn't make you work too hard to start gathering things. Like there's rocks on the ground, and you just like you can just punch deer. I think
yep,
if
yep.
you don't have, which is it's just kind of a funny thing in itself. But yeah, it's not. It's not. It lets you get started right away.
Yeah, just kind of speaking
And
about the game itself, though, I personally continuously reference this game or compare it to World of Warcraft when it first dropped, because to me,
oh,
this game really like makes you feel vulnerable when you start going into higher level
yeah,
zones. You feel like, holy crap, this is dangerous. I don't want to. Dying feels really bad in that game, because you
yeah,
lose there's skill drain, you lose skills, you lose like, and it's punishing. Like if I die, my running skill is maxed out at 100. If I die, it goes down 5 levels. Like that's punishing. So you
yeah,
don't want to
yeah.
die, which is really nice. And it just has like a lot of nice elements of exploration and being afraid of new things and never knowing what's around the next corner, and I really like that personally.
Yeah. And I was looking at the setting of it, and I was like, is this going to grab me? Is this really going to grab me? Am I really into the Viking thing? It's like that's not actually. I mean, so far it hasn't been central to the experience. Like, yeah, those are the, you know, it's not like super heavy laying it on thick.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, I've never been like particularly into Vikings or
Yeah.
pirates
Right.
or anything, and you can build whatever style structures you like. It doesn't feel like the music feels like ambient fantasy more
Mhm.
than like crazy Viking driven music, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
another thing I want to point out. Just the music is great, but
And yeah, that's I think one of the interesting things about a lot of indie games is and I don't know what it is that draws people to it, or inspires people to do it when they make a labor of love of a game. But like they all seem to share really good music, and we can talk more about that later. But that's
well,
something
yeah.
they all share it for some reason.
It's true though, and I wonder if it's easier to have like it almost feels like the not only is the music really good, but the music just feels right, and the sound design always just really seems
Mhm.
to fit better. And I wonder if there's just more of a just cohesive just unity among the whole project when you're only 3 or 4 people that are really
Yeah.
plugged into this thing, and like every decision is talked about among the whole team, and it's the whole team is involved in this
Mhm.
process. Like, what do you guys think of this? Granted, one person's composing the music usually, but
Right.
or at least in these studios, because I know one guy did the Valheim soundtrack, but
hmm
it's incredible.
Yeah, because I don't know if we've mentioned it yet, but like this extremely flexible, like broad experience that is Valheim is only 5 people.
5 people,
Yeah,
over
yeah,
5 million sales on this game. It's
yeah.
been out for 1 month. Um,
In early access,
early
no less.
access, no bugs, like no bugs. Has public as a online play with the net play being really good.
Mhm.
Performance could be better. They'll get there, right? We'll see
Sure.
driver
Yeah.
support and stuff. Could be better. But just yeah, they've done so many things better than we see AAA studios do. And just made really good decisions in terms of
Uh-huh.
like, the graphics aren't anything like when you first look at it, it's like, okay, it's
Right. Yeah.
kind
I
of
was
pixely.
surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised. I didn't quite know what to expect.
But once you get
And it,
into it, it's beautiful. Like
right.
it really is gorgeous. So
Like the first time you look up and you see the big tree in the sky, like it's this is you know there's something going on
yeah,
here.
it feels unique, and you want to explore this world. And once you start sailing and seeing sunsets and dealing with fog and stuff and crazy thunderstorms, it's just like the world is a
Mhm.
is a is a huge character in this game. But yeah,
Yeah.
5 people made this game. If you look at steamcharts.com right now, It is the number 3 game on Steam being played right now in active players. That's Counter-Strike, Dota 2, then Valheim. Valheim is above PUBG, Apex Legends, Rainbow Six. It goes Rust, TF2, Grand Theft Auto. That's
Yeah.
just huge. And I think it says the peak player count was about 500,000, 500,000 people, which, as far as I can tell, is the third highest of all time on Steam, with the only games above that at this point are Valve games.
Right. Yeah, free to play. I mean, it's not free to get Valheim. It's a reasonable price. I think it's $20 for early access, but it's certainly not free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the price point a little bit. Just how much do you think that is attributed to the success of this game? $20, enough people will just be like, sure, I'll give it a try. Everybody's talking about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't give $20 a second thought.
Yeah.
Like, it's absolutely worth that. Yeah, that's a good price point for a lot of games. I think, because $60 you start. It's like, okay, is there enough here? Am I going to spend enough time in this to really make it worth the trouble? $20, nah, no brainer.
Yeah, it's hard to say no with a game like this and the success they've seen. And
I mean, it's just early access too. It's like, okay, this is a bit of expectation setting. They're being honest about any shortcomings it might have.
Which
it'll get.
That's the crazy thing.
Really
that's the crazy thing. It
doesn't really have that.
Well,
that was. It's like you're getting way more for your money than you'd initially expect.
Yeah, the amount of content that exists is really, really impressive. They have a whole roadmap laid out. Each map is different. I don't know if you knew that. Each map you load into is randomly generated, and
I was gonna.
Okay.
Note, yeah, the experience. It's one of these things where obviously there are common elements to every experience, but everybody's server is going to be different, and everybody's path is going to be different.
There's certain things you got to find, as you explore, and it's never the same. They have already announced. So currently there's 5 or 6 biomes, I think, and there's more in the game that are unfinished, and I've explored this game fully, right? I've discovered all these unfinished parts, which is where the early access comes in. But the amount of gameplay needed to get to those parts of the game is extraordinary. It's really impressive. So, yep, 10 out of 10 Valheim. That's kind of one of the reasons we wanted to have this conversation today, is because Five Guys have made this game. They're from Sweden, I believe. And they've just been killing it, incredibly. And they seem very humble and just thrilled about everything. So it's going to be fun to watch this game grow. But it's not the only game right now that we're kind of looking at where we're seeing a lot of people talk about it. Loop Hero is big on the radar as well right now. Now, Loop Hero is made by a team of 2, and this game is, it started as a 2-man team, and now it's a 4-man studio. So they called themselves a 2-man team to start, and then now they're a 4-man studio. So that's really cool. But regardless, it's another game where we're seeing a lot of. It's number 18 on Steam charts, which is still really impressive. And this is another roguelike tactical game where I think it's got a bit of D&D influence.
Yeah, it's got a really unique style. I'm looking at I haven't played it, I'll be honest.
I'm playing it very soon, but I haven't either.
It wasn't even on my radar, but it's a whole thing. It looks really cool. The aesthetic is reminds me of DOS games. When I was when I was a game on a CD was a novel thing, and you'd it's like, oh, okay, this is cool.
Yeah,
but it's a really it's very fantasy D&D kind of aesthetic, a very pixel art-y aesthetic, but in that early 90s PC way, not early console kind of way. It's interesting.
It's cool. It's a fun looking game. I plan on streaming it soon because I've got a couple buddies that are just obsessed. Like, these are the same friends that when Slay the Spire dropped, that's like what they did. When Hades dropped, that's
Yeah.
what they did. And it seems like if you're a fan of any kind of roguelike experience, this is going to be high on the list. But yeah, I'm pumped to try it out. And again, this is just another title that came out, tiny team of 4 guys. They've seen a lot of success. And again, it's just like got a cool aesthetic.
Yeah, the one of, and we'll talk about this as well, like one of the interesting mechanics here, like you're not controlling your player directly, like your player character directly, like you're influencing the world with cards, and stuff just happens. So that's
you're like a DM is the idea, I believe.
That would make sense.
It's cool.
But yeah, one of the things that, again, this is where the innovation happens. It's where these new mechanics arise. Is in the indie. I don't know what word I'm looking for. Community.
Yeah, the culture, the community. I mean, it's definitely its own side of gaming. Like, especially even at conventions, if you ever go to PAX, like there are people that go there for indie games only. That's why they're there. They don't care about the AAA booths with these huge games to play the new whatever. They care about finding these new tiny devs and meeting them in person and talking to them and having this whole discussion. And maybe they're aspiring developers themselves, and it feels, I don't know, it feels very communal.
Yeah, right. I've regretfully only been to PAX once, and but that was definitely the coolest thing about it. Was it's like you have these small booths, you have these really passionate developers. They might have one console, one TV, couple controllers.
It's cool though. Yeah, it's like
right. Oh yeah, I mean it's very artisanal.
What's the game?
It's just I think I played, oh yeah, Crypto the Necrodancer.
Oh, okay. You love your rhythm games. Makes sense.
Yeah. I'm going to have to revisit that now. It's like you really need a pad. I'll have to stream that game sometime.
That'd be cool. I'd watch.
You really need a gamepad, and I have, or a dance pad. I have one now, and I can revisit it. But yeah, it's very like an auteur. You're handling one person teams, small teams, all these super complex aspects of development, just spring forth from the minds of 1 or 2 people. And it's just really cool to watch.
If I had to ask you your favorite indie game of all time, what would it be?
Oh boy. We were taught, so I'll just say up front, it's Undertale.
One guy.
Sorry?
One guy made the game. It's another small studio.
Toby Fox.
Yep, Toby Fox.
Toby Fox. A couple people. Yeah, he had some help with the art, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with the character art. But yeah, I mean, if you don't know Toby Fox, I mean, how can you not know Toby Fox at this point? He started doing, I think he got his start as okay, personal connection here. My spouse, Toby Fox was, we won't go into this. This is a digression. But anyway, I think, Toby Fox got his start in like sort of the Earthbound modding community.
Okay, that's cool.
And, yeah, he did. I think he did a custom ROM for that, and then he was a composer of some game music for the epic length webcomic Homestuck.
Okay.
Which you may or
I do know. I mean, I can't claim I've ever consumed any of the content, but I know what it is.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot.
It's
truly the epic of our era. But yeah, he did some music for that, and then so I was aware of his music from that, and then so I think I don't know when I first became aware of Undertale, but I was not hooked on the pitch for the game itself. And then at some point I just heard the soundtrack.
I was
like,
it's huge. It's so good. Yeah. That's all I knew it for.
yeah, I was like, I want to. So I heard the soundtrack, and I was like, I want to know, what game this is the soundtrack to, and Undertale is not a graphical tour de force by any means.
No.
It's it's a side scroller. It looks like an art.
8-bit?
It looks like, yeah, it's sort of inspired by that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the graphics are decidedly retro, lo-fi, sprite based art.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a distinct aesthetic all its own. Don't get me wrong, but it all comes together. Like I think the beauty of those lo-fi graphics is that it allows space for your imagination to inhabit that world or to flesh out that world in a way that a fully 3D high production value game. It's like, okay, well, this is an interactive movie, kind of.
Right.
I'm just accepting this realistic world as it's being presented to me. Whereas it's like Undertale, you're only seeing a small, or these smaller games. It's like, okay, I'm only seeing a very small portion of this world, but there's just enough information there to be like, okay,
yeah,
what all could be here.
You're still immersed,
right? And we were talking again. I don't know if this is a unique mechanic, but like playing Undertale once does not give you the full experience. There's multiple endings that requires multiple playthroughs to fully experience it.
That's cool.
And like in the emotion, and again, it's just proof positive, I think, that games as a storytelling medium, as like sort of I don't know, things to get emotionally invested in. It's just proof positive that you don't need a gazillion polys on screen to like make a permanent impression, because it certainly has made a permanent impression on me.
That's awesome. Yeah, I got to check it out. I mean, I'm obviously well informed as to Undertale and everything about it, but I just never gave it a play.
It's coming to Xbox Game Pass.
Nice.
Very. So okay. You can. You will be able to.
Maybe I'll stream it. Who knows?
Yeah. It's not. I don't know if it's a game. Well, you could stream it. There you'd have to be the strict no spoilers rule, but
okay.
If by some chance you have not played Undertale, you have Xbox Game Pass, like you absolutely should give it a shot, because the music is great. If you love good music, it has that. There's a great story, there's a great world building thing. The characterizations are great. The success is well deserved. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, it's actually funny because I probably 4 or 5 years ago I commentated a Minecraft tournament, another game that's single dev Notch initially, just kind of made that on his own in Java. But right, is that true? Was it just Notch?
That's the impression I have.
Okay, yeah. I know Mojang. I think it was just him at the start, but obviously that's not the case anymore. But anyway, so I was commentating this Minecraft tournament, and I remember one of the guys that was helping do production, because there's a stage. It was like all live, and it was just local. It wasn't like esports or anything. This was like a local thing for local kids. But they put on an Undertale song, and I thought the music was good. I was like, all right, I'm into this. This feels very retro, but very distinct in its own thing. The kids went berserk. Like they were just like off the wall when that music came on. They were like screaming Undertale, and I asked the guy, I'm like, what's Undertale? So they're like, don't you work with video games? I'm like, well, but no, it's cool. It's definitely got a cool vibe to it. Yeah, we don't really go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and so like another game in that vein, it actually, one of the things that really influenced Undertale is another game called Cave Story.
This was free on the Epic Game Store, and you went ham on it. I know.
I was really into. I still need to finish it, because I feel like I'm in the end game with it.
But this came before Undertale, Cave Story.
Yeah, it was way before Undertale. when did Undertale even come out? I'm old. What this is telling me is I'm old. Was released in 2015. And Cave Story came 10 years before that. It was 2004 or
Wow.
11 years.
So, well, we were still in high school because I know you're the
Yep.
same age as me. So, wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. And
so
so
this is a
that,
Japanese game, Cave Story?
yeah, is a Japanese developer.
Okay.
One guy made it in his
Wow.
free time. And did he do the music too? Yes. So he did the music too of the original version.
That's cool.
And it just, yeah, I think it influenced a whole bunch of games after. But again, it's like, great music, emotionally engaging plot, great world building. But again, you're doing a lot within that whole side scrolling genre, side scrolling pixel art genre.
Mm-hmm.
And it leaves space for you to inhabit. It's like you wonder what went on in this world, what went on in this.
Can you imagine pursuing being an indie dev in 2005? Like that's so before this was a thing. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
Not saying it's the only indie game from back then, but still, like that's impressive.
Right. Yeah. Like because Steam was
a baby.
Steam was brand new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steam
was
maybe in its infancy for sure.
Yeah. Steam was like late 2003.
YouTube was around this time too, right? So this is like, when we think about like the modern internet, Twitch didn't exist. Like YouTube was barely a thing by 2005. Was it even out? Like it was.
Yeah, it started in 2005.
Yeah, exactly. So like,
all these channels, all these distribution and sort of platforms just didn't exist, and so like that was, yeah. I mean, I think that's why it was more. That maybe I have no idea. This is just my guess, but it may have been why it was a slow burn.
Yeah, maybe.
Spreads in these again, it's like stuff spreads in these underground communities. Like the Earthbound community was small, super devoted, kept it going, has still kept it going,
which is crazy.
That spreads out. Yeah, I mean, Earthbound was 1995, and it still holds as much.
Got a cult following, yeah.
Yeah. But this stuff, it spreads and it influences, and it's just really cool to go back and see, like, okay, this is what. This is where it all started.
That's a cool story, though. And to see
it's
like
just one guy. It's just one guy.
But to see that, like, however many years, like 15 years later, be featured on like the Epic Game Store, like that to be relevant enough to be on the radar for that is cool. It is. Chat, let us know if there's any indie games that you've fallen in love with, because there's such a huge variety out there, and there's a lot of these small studios. I know some guys are huge fans of games like Hyper Light Drifter. I never played it myself, but that's a studio of like I think 9 people made that game.
Yeah,
and that's really
what just occurred to me. Another one that was just, it's like, sorry, I'm gonna make sure I have it. Have you heard of Night in the Woods?
No.
Okay. This is another one that you should check out. It was 3 people.
NIGHT or KNIGHT?
It's night as in the time of day.
Okay. I'm making sure. You never know.
Yeah.
Night in the Woods.
Yeah, the art style is great. The characters are unforgettable. The atmosphere is great. It's like another one of these games that's just it sticks with you once you finish it.
That looks like a really nice game to just unwind and just like fall into it. Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's relaxing. I wouldn't call it relaxing.
Okay, it looks like it is from the art style.
Not quite, but it certainly rewards. it's rewarding to kind of meditate on what's going on. It's not a happy game. I won't go too deep into it because I don't want to spoil it if you haven't played it. But yeah, it's not a happy game. But that it's just the way all these various elements come together. Like the world building is great, the atmosphere is great, the art style is great. Yeah, again, 3 people. It's been distributed on every platform since, and it's super influential. Okay, maybe not super influential, but it's certainly influential.
Wow, for you it is. That's all that matters, right? From a personal experience, if it stands out to you that much, that's hype. Cool. Yeah, another one that we should definitely talk about is just Stardew Valley. One guy, Concerned Ape, also known as Eric Barone, I believe. And he he's just never charged for an update. This game came out like 5 or 6 years ago. He developed the game himself, of course. If you look at the credits nowadays, there's other people on there for doing the multiplayer. He didn't program that, and then localization. He didn't translate the game, obviously, but beyond that, he's done everything himself. And yeah, this game is just a titan. It's huge. He's done so many updates.
Yeah, I haven't personally played it, but it really grabbed my spouse.
You have never. What? All right. Well, if you're not into like that kind of, if you didn't grow up with Harvest Moon, then
I did not.
Okay. I loved that game as a kid. So, and Stardew Valley is the only game I've ever bought on multiple platforms because I said this is the perfect game for travel. So I got it on my Switch, and it's the only time I've ever already owned a game and repurchased it happily because I was just like, what, $20 or whatever it is, maybe it was 30 on the Switch. Every time I fly somewhere, well, back when we used to travel, that game, it just makes time fly because it's, I don't know, there's something about it.
I've seen enough of it to be familiar with it, and it's it's one of these games I'm gonna have to get to one of these days. Just try it, and I think it would grab me.
That's another game where the music is so unbelievably good, where you just kind of look at this game and you say, one person made all of this, including the music, where it's like, you'll just have the music stuck in your head. And then the first time you go through the seasons changing just from like, summer to fall, it's just, and you get like this whole different feel. You're just blown away by how, like you said, you're painting the picture yourself. You're falling into this world, and it's incredible in that game.
Yeah, that's the best feeling, I think, you can have in a game.
And we still go back and play it like 6 years later. Like every I'd say for whatever reason, fall into winter, like is kind of like the time when my wife and we play it, and like for like 2 or 3 weeks we're playing every night, and that's all we do. And eventually we get burnt out because we play way too much. But we always come back.
Yeah,
great game.
It's just such it's just such a good warm and fuzzy feeling when a game grabs you like that. Like it's almost, I don't know of another medium.
Yeah,
because you can get, I mean, I don't know, TV shows. Sure, you can get obsessed with TV shows and get really into the fandom, but like you're unless you're like writing your own fan fiction, or I don't, whatever. It doesn't invite that same kind of interaction. You can interact with your other fans, which may or may not be a good thing depending on the show. But you're not interacting with it. Whereas with this, it's like, okay, this is my world. This is my take on this game, and it's like, it's just like, it's almost like a warm blanket. It's really nice. I just don't know where else you can find that kind of experience.
It's hard. I mean, that's what games are special. Going on Microwave in chat says he played a game called Kentucky Route 08 by a 3-person team called Cardboard Computer.
Yeah. I have, again, that's another one that's come strongly recommended to me, and like one of the guys who made Night in the Woods is like, Kentucky Route 0 is great, and I just have not gotten around to getting it. It's like that's the downside of gaming. Spoiled for choice.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's cool though.
Vulgar, we were just talking about Stardew Valley. I assume that's what your message was referring to. Celebrating
Yeah,
the success of that game.
yeah. Kentucky Route Zero looks, the art style looks really, really distinctive, and
Yeah, no, it sounds interesting. I had never heard of this, to be honest, so that's cool.
huh,
The fact that
yeah,
you've had this recommended to you, cool. That's great.
hmm
There's just so many indie games out there, but again, like if we're looking at the price point being, $10 to $30, generally speaking, it's like sure, why not? You're gonna get more value out of it than any movie ticket you buy 9 times out of 10, right? And that's $15, right? So
yeah.
again, not
Right.
like we can go to the movies, but
Well,
soon
dude, right?
there's hope. There's light at the end of the
There's,
tunnel.
there's light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, there's an end to this. Yeah, I know. There, I think there's like, I don't. There's like 4 acts or
It
something,
says
or
five.
5 acts.
Five. I just looked at the website really quick.
It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
25. It's $25.
Not bad.
Like, go for it.
We briefly talked on Mega Crit / Slay the Spire. That's the company that, or the two guys that made Slay the Spire. Another huge success. Really just, I played countless hours of that game. Just a really fun roguelike. Takes the card concept. But it's like the first like card game I got into other than Hearthstone that really pulled me in. It made me want to learn the mechanics and learn how to get good at it. It definitely has like a feeling of skill when you're learning the game and you feel like you're
Yeah.
getting good at it. You're building and strategizing with each run, and
Mhm.
there is all these different tiers like where you can play it at like level 20. So
Mhm.
it's more and more and more difficult in a variety of different ways. And they've
Yeah.
continued to add new classes, and each class is like inventing new mechanics, and it's really cool.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, it is a deck building game.
What was that?
Yeah, I said it is a deck building
Oh
game
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
because, like, I don't know if you've ever played Ascension on paper or electronically, but that's one of my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah, Ascension is a
I think that's what inspired them to make this game,
yeah, it may
right?
well have been.
Yeah,
And
I think
that's really
they've publicly
fun.
gone on record stating that. So
Yeah, and so like, um, when that all comes together, or learning how to, you know, um,
when the stars
when
align, you get that OP deck, and it's like, oh yeah, it feels really good.
right. hmm So
Cool.
unfortunately, I've never played Slay the Spire.
Well,
It's like,
another one for the list for you because it's.
yeah, yeah.
But make sure you have time to commit because you'll need it. But that's a nice game because you can pause at any time, right? You can do
right,
one little level, beat a couple enemies, and then I'll
right.
come back later, right?
Yeah, and that's another thing I like about these roguelikes or these procedurally generated games, where every run through is different. Like, they don't require you to, or they respect your time essentially.
Yeah, they really do.
As we've gotten older, it's like, okay, I have less and less time to play, and when I dive into one of these, it's like if I have to unearth like all the story threads and all the stuff that's happened up to that point, it's like, well, it's been maybe 3 months since I picked up this game last.
Yeah, and it feels impossible to do that. Like if you don't finish the game and you
Like,
pick up a game later,
so it's like, what has happened? What has led me to this point?
like I'm
And these
almost,
are
yeah, even like Final Fantasy VII remastered. Like I'm almost done with my replay through or my playthrough of that game. I haven't played it since it originally dropped like 20 years ago. But even then, I'm like, what's happening in the story right now? Because I haven't played in a couple months, so it's just kind of
yeah,
like,
right, right. And so it's fun to just like know that you're gonna get in, something's gonna happen, and if, like, with Hades, I would say I don't want to, like, we've already talked a lot about Hades, but it's like Hades, you can get in, exactly what's going to happen,
yep, yep.
and how long it's going to take. And I was like,
And
okay,
if you
well,
need
I
to
have an
take a
hour
break, then
left.
you can, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. It's like you can pick it up again.
not ideal because each run is so different that like if you forget what kind of build you're doing, then yeah.
But still, yeah, it's like, well, okay, if you die, I mean, I die early enough still. It's like, okay, this is only gonna take 30 to 45 minutes of my time. I have not beaten it yet. It's a shame, but
yeah,
I'm getting there.
It's fun.
Like every playthrough of Hades is like you get a little bit better, you learn a little bit more about how it plays, but you don't have to like rebuild your understanding of the game world every time you do it. So
Chad is asking about Legend of Dragoon. Why are you talking about Legend of Dragoon? That game is ancient as well. Maybe they'll make a remaster of that. I guess because I mentioned Final Fantasy VII remaster. They want a Legend of Dragoon master, which I'd be all for. I still remember playing that demo disc when it came with PlayStation Magazine back in 2001. I don't know, a long time ago.
I don't think I've even ever heard of that game.
Oh, really? So yeah, it's a Square, I believe. Or maybe it was Sony.
Yeah, it was Sony.
Yeah. Ages ago. I always assumed it was a Square game because it was like a classic Sony RPG, I guess. But
1999, 2000.
Yeah, I was close, but it's been a minute. Yeah, the last game on my list that stands out to me in like the past year of like what indie games have come out that have been like really interesting and compelling is Phasmophobia. It dropped around Halloween. Kinetic Games, it's actually just one guy named D Nighter, and he's kind of trying to pave the way as a small studio for VR. Yeah, just one guy. And he just made like this simple game that's really designed for VR. Brings you this horror element. Definitely has its jank, if you will, because like some of the times when you're like looking around the flashlight, your character's back is like completely snapped backwards. Like humans don't bend that way, but it's funny. It's funny, and we played it on Halloween. My wife chickened out almost immediately. She was just like left. She like just like got off her computer. She's like, nope. She got off so fast. She just but it's cool. It's a cool game.
Yeah, I know. One of our coworkers, Dan, was really into Phasmophobia. I don't do horror. I just don't do it. So it's
I played the medium last week, and you usually hang out in the chat. You seemed to noped out last week.
It was. Yeah.
That game was scary, I will say.
Yeah.
But
I can do stuff. I can do stuff like Control, where it's more cerebral, absurdist horror. But yeah, it's so cool that it's like I have not looked into how easy it is to release a game on Steam in early access, but it's so cool that people just have this platform now where you can just say, okay, well, I'm gonna do whatever and throw something up there, and it like. Among Us, right? Like Among Us is the quintessential indie game success story.
It's also like it's not new either. Didn't that game come out a few years ago?
Well, yeah,
but it just exploded recently. It came out 2018.
Right, 2018. But it's just one of those things where it's like if lightning strikes, it can strike big.
And now that's on like every platform. We're talking about like iOS, Android. It's everywhere. So yeah, good for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun game too.
Self-published too, which is also
right.
That's something we don't talk about too often. But if you manage to self-publish a game like that blows up like this, I mean, congrats, you made it.
Yeah, right. And it's just yeah, there's if you get a hit like that, it's not a slow burn anymore. It's like firing a rocket engine.
No, yeah, it's. I mean, even D Nighter. You look at the Phasmophobia studio, and it says you look at their page. It says currently 1-man team, but that's clearly like he's going to try to build and do more. You'd think. I would assume Valheim would. maybe out on a couple more people. But I kind of hope that these studios, like, stay small.
Mhm.
Even when if you read about Hyperlight Drifter, they have their team listed for Hyperlight Drifter, right? 9
Mhm.
people, but then they have a new game they're working on, and they have that team listed out, and it's like twice the size.
Mhm.
It's like 18 people, so it's still a nice small studio. But it's
Right.
cool to see like the pride of we built this first game with 9 people,
Right.
and they
Yeah.
go out of their way to show that.
Mhm. Yeah, and in general, um, this might just be a personal conceit, but I think restrictions breed creativity. It imposes a certain like urgency on what you're doing, and a certain, how do I solve this, or implement this idea in a way that is like with unlimited resources and unlimited time. Um, you might never get it done.
Right.
Project management is a whole. Ooh.
True.
Again, shipping, it's just amazing. Like shipping a game at all, and then doing it yourself, doing it as one person. But yeah, I mean, restriction breeds creativity, and it's like you can see how these people thought this through, and we're like, um, here's a really innovative way to present this concept. It's just born out of the fact that you only have that small team and that small amount of resources, relatively speaking, and it's just really cool to see that happen.
Yeah, it really is just satisfying to see the success with these kind of tiny studios. And you talked about just can't imagine being able to release a game or create a game solo or as a small team. And my older brother is a dev. He works he's a senior game designer at Bungie. He works on Destiny too. And for years he was with other companies who like LucasArts. He worked for tiny
Mhm.
companies making Facebook games, but all the while he was always working on his own projects, and he's never actually shipped one, but he's always been tinkering on his own concepts, and
Yeah,
he's really into platformers. And I'm not going to tell you what the concept is because I don't want someone to snipe it just
yeah,
because, but he's got
sure.
this amazing idea for a game that kind of reinvents the way you have to approach a platformer, which I think is really cool. And he's made a few levels and he's shown it off to me, and sure there needs polish here and there, but like it's cool to
Mhm.
see what you can do solo, right? And this is a slow burn for
Yeah,
him, right? He's been working on this game for like 6 years on and off. Obviously, it's not a priority for him. He's got an amazing job with Bungie that he couldn't be happier about, right? That's where he
Mhm.
wants to be. But it's cool just to be able
Right,
to tinker with something that you think is neat, and
right.
it's trying to capture like he grew up loving platformers, so he wants to make platformers that
Yeah,
young people
right.
can learn to love.
Mhm. And yeah, I mean that just being able to hack on it in your spare time and like just do it the way you want. I mean, that's
Invaluable, really.
what,
Yeah,
what greater creative freedom could you ask for?
yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, yeah,
Well, hopefully we'll get to, you know, maybe eventually sees the light of day for public release.
yeah, I
Because
think
I'm
we will. I think we will eventually.
intrigued.
But it's a cool concept, and it's got a really cute charm to it that I think a lot of people would latch onto. Like it has a nice identity, which is a lot where a lot of games
Yeah.
struggle and feeling like they have their own personal identity. And the name of the game that he has and everything, it's all like, mwah, it's great. But yeah, I think that's about all the time we have for this show. Any like final honorable mentions you can think of for indie games that really stand out to you?
No, I think there have been a few that have come to mind, but I think we've covered. Um, yeah, well, maybe one more. Okay, so have you played Baba Is You?
No, I've heard of it.
You've not? Okay, just absolutely delightful, absolutely weird platform or puzzle game.
Okay,
Um,
that's like my one genre I stay away from usually. Just classic puzzle
yeah,
games. I
it's
hated them as a kid. Hated them.
it, it's unlike anything else I've ever played.
Okay,
It's it's yeah, yeah. We won't go into it, but it's really cool. You should check it out.
I think I'm going with
Like
Crypt of the
anything else.
Necrodancer first. That's going to be the first one I go for.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to revisit that and pick it up. I keep saying I will, and I never do, and I should because I'm all set up to do it now.
Yeah, I'll have my dance pad set up in about a month, so that seems like a good excuse to dive in.
And we can revisit it then. It's another great indie. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Cool, guys. Well, obviously, here in Sidequest, we just kind of talk about random gaming topics every week. So thanks for tuning into this. Thursdays, we do a tech show where we talk about various just devices, whether it be a mouse, keyboard, or a full-on laptop or a GPU. This week, we're going to be talking about the G14 and G15 and just diving in completely to those devices and doing some just kind of diving in and seeing what it's all about. And then Friday, we may be streaming one of these indie games we talked about here at Loop Hero. We're finalizing the details. We're gonna stream that game soon, no matter what. But look forward to it. I'll be playing on the Flow X13, which is it's right here, is what it is. It's just this beautiful 13-inch device that has an external eGPU you can plug in right on the side with PCI 3.0. And I gamed on it last week playing the medium with a 3080 maxed out RTX effects, like on a 13-inch laptop at the end of the day. So that's kind of crazy. It's really crazy. It's a lot of fun. So check that out on Friday. Hit the follow button here on Twitch. Jeff, any final shout outs you want to give?
Nope. I'm all shouted out.
He's all shouted out. Play Valheim. It's amazing.
Yeah. There you go.
Till next time. GG's.